Since I'm writing about Hollywood's pretendian tribes, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the ironies of Marlon Brando's 1973 politically motivated rejection of his Oscar based on, you know, the treatment of the American Indians. Okay, there were in fact several ironies. Okay, first one of them was he was, you know, offended by the way American Indians had been stereotyped in movies. And American Indians had been stereotyped in movies. No question about it. You know, they've been stereotyped basically as savages, just war whoops and, feathers, not much complexity. But the movie for which he won the Oscar that he rejected was The Godfather, which was about the mafia, and it could make some Italian Americans uncomfortable because, it concentrated on Italian American gangsters, and of course, most Italian Americans aren't gangsters. And, the mafia is made up entirely of people who are of men who are of Italian American background, at least partially. I think John Gotti was half Jewish. But the vast majority of Italian Americans don't have mafia connections and probably get kind of tired of people asking, even jokingly, if they have such connections. Okay, and so, that movie could be seen as, negatively stereotyping Italian Americans. Another irony could be, having morality preached to us by Marlon Brando. Somebody who, was not known for the moral treatment of the women in his life. Which, of course, again, that's probably pretty typical of men in Hollywood. But it still does kind of rankle to be preached at by, a man with his type of reputation. That's kind of the second irony. Do you really want, he can't really hold himself up as a moral exemplar for the rest of us. Another thing was about the recent events at Wounded Knee. Now, Wounded Knee itself had some ironies because Wounded Knee was occupied by the American Indian movement. And the odd thing was that occupation was occasioned by various things that they wanted. And one of them was they wanted the ouster of a man named Richard Wilson, who had been elected to an office by American Indians. He'd been criticized by many American Indians, but he had been elected. Attempts to impeach him had failed. So to some extent, the occupation of Wounded Knee was not necessarily just a fight between American Indians and the white establishment. It was really, to a large extent, a fight between American Indians, a fight between different groups of American Indians. Okay, so there are some ironies. And then another irony is a greater irony of, do movies really depict anyone's experience accurately or with true complexity or depth? I mean, movies are movies. Throughout much of the history of movies, almost everybody seemed to have a last name that came from the British Isles. You know, an English last name, maybe an Irish last name. In Double Indemnity, there was a guy named Zacchati. I don't think he ever even actually showed up in the movie.